Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Saturday edition of SFScon 2020. It's nice to have you with us on this Saturday and to talk about open source and business model in open source together with you. My name is Petra Seppi, and I'm probably the one in this SFScon team, in this community, who knows less about technical stuff about open source, but I am supposed to know something about business modeling, and in fact business models are daily business of my life as head of innovation management at Neu Tech Park. So I'm really curious about this day, about the contribution of outstanding speakers, trending topics, interesting companies, and interesting morning with all of you. So I'm happy to moderate this track, and the trending issues we are going to speak this morning range from IoT, experimentation and iterative simulation to communities and blockchain. So that's about me and this morning, and now it's time to introduce you to the first speaker. And with the first speaker, who is already here with us, we start with open source and IoT. And I ask you, dear audience, first, if you would expect a company like Gardena to be at a festival about open source. The first speaker will explain us what it means to bring a hardware-based company like Gardena or the mother company Husqvarna into the IoT era. He is Gardena's embedded software developer, and we are curious to hear about his experiences. Reto Schneider, the SFScon virtual stage is yours. Please get started.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my lightning talk. As told before, my name is Reto Schneider, and I'm working mainly on the IoT gateway for Gardena. Today, I want to share some experience I made during developing the gateway while focusing on the free software aspects for which we heavily relied on external support. After my talk, I would love to have some interesting discussions with you in St. Virtual. Here we go. First, I want to tell you where Gardena is coming from and how we got from a GPL violator to what I would call a good open source citizen. Historically, Gardena was mainly known for its watering products like the one-click system and a broad range of hardware tools. Software played a really minor role and nothing was connected to the internet for a long time. This changed in 2016 with the introduction of the Gardena Smart System. It allows the users to interact with their garden using an app. All the code is still proprietary, sorry about that, except for large chunks on the IoT gateway, which facilitates the communication to the devices and runs Linux. And this is where Gardena made the mistake of not properly dealing with the requirements of the GPL license. The company got named and shamed publicly for this shortcoming, and when starting to develop a second generation gateway, open source compliance was made a first priority. In 2018, when the development for this new gateway started, this time a new team of developers who understood open source software and who are enthusiastic about it were put in place. This led to quite some opportunities to make things better, both for Gardena and the community. The first step was to bring the MediaTek MT76 support into mainline U-boot. The needed financial effort could be justified by being able to use cheaper hardware components and a reduction in production costs. This is how we got our first contract with some external open source developers. Once this work was done, we realized that instead of having our own developers maintaining a huge patch set ported over from OpenWRT to Yocto forever, mainlining it by our well-known contractor will save a lot of time, money, and also reduce risks. The later one turned out to be a very significant benefit once we detected bugs in the OpenWRT patches, which rendered around 20% of our gateways in our first batch of prototypes non-working. The solution then was simply to switch to the new near mainline kernel. This saved us a lot of time. The third step was less glamorous. The MT76 Wi-Fi driver, surprisingly for us, failed the Wi-Fi Alliance certification, which is mandatory for our product, and we couldn't have put it to the market without. We clearly painted ourselves in a corner, as we had no alternatives at hand. This was the only driver that would work with an up-to-date Linux kernel. But again, 2 days after we sent the first email to the driver maintainer, we were able to sign a new contract and start working on it. And just 1 month later, the device actually passed the certification, and all of this work is nowadays available in the respective open source projects. Bottom line is, our project was successful largely because of financial investments into free software. Then we moved on to 2020. Now that we had a nice and shiny second generation gateway, we realized that we have to backport basically the new architecture through the existing first generation hardware, which was already out in the market and no longer getting produced. And while this comes with the inherent challenge of migrating everything from bootloader to partition layout and user data without any interaction by the customer, we also realized that once again, the mainline Wi-Fi driver will not pass the Wi-Fi Alliance testing. Again, we contacted the developers recently working on the driver and succeeded in getting one of them hired. This time, however, it was a bit tricky because this guy is not a freelancer, and hiring a private person in another continent is a challenge. What worked neatly for us, however, was to getting him a contract with the consultancy company we knew already from their work on the second generation gateway. This project is still work in progress, and in case you are interested, there is some documentation about it on the Linux Wireless Wiki. From my own perspective as a developer, this way of working feels very empowering. It allows me to have only rudimentary understanding in areas like Wi-Fi communication on bootloaders, and still staying in control when handing out this kind of work to third parties. All of this can be done without conducting any interviews. Just looking at the Git log in the respective open source projects works well enough. We had so far 4 different external developers in the last 2 years, and all of them performed greatly, and it's a lot of fun to work with them. On the other side, not that bad, but still might be something that as a developer is a bit of a letdown, is that you sort of miss out on opportunities to do the cool work yourself. It's just the external ones are so much better than at least I am. Also, I often felt a bit too much to be in the position of just integrating and testing the work the external developers did. But yeah, the result in the end justified it to me doing it anyway. What I found to be helpful in order to embrace free open source software at my workplace in a meaningful way and allowing to outsource work packages to open source developer is putting in the effort of lining out why it makes sense from a business perspective to invest in the open source development. In my case, working for a company which intends to maintain its products for many years and selling them at large quantities, this was quite easy to accomplish. What also was really helpful is the fact that these contracts we've seen so far work in a pay-as-you-go way, no strings attached. This way, we can stop handing out more work at any time and makes it a manageable risk to handing out work like this and signing contracts like this. However, as I said before, we did not have any bad experiences so far. Another one really effective way, but not elegant at all, is to paint yourself into a corner. Once this happens, depending on the project at risk, throwing money at relevant open source developers becomes pretty much a no-brainer. What I found a bit problematic in the whole workflow is mainly on our side, and that's the fact that we still, or not everyone understands how open source licenses work. Also, there is a bit of confusion sometimes when a company with proprietary mindset is trying to sell your solution and they sort of claim that it's open source alike, where it clearly is not. It's some made up custom open source license, which in the end causes you all kind of troubles you rather want to avoid. And you would not have with some, let's say, OSI approved licenses. So that's it. That's my lightning talk. If you have any questions, I am happy to take them. And I intend to hang out later on at the virtual meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Reto. Let me see where's the best place to stay. Okay, here I can see you and I can see the camera and so the audience. There is in fact one question and I read it from the forum. In Gardena, which countermeasures do you think could be necessary to optimize the collaboration with FOSS projects?
Sorry, I didn't.
Which countermeasures do you think could be necessary to optimize the collaboration with free open source projects?
Which could optimize?
The collaboration in the open source field?
I think it's not that easy to ask. Like at Gardena, we are not yet really in a strong collaboration mode. However, we have there is an Eclipse project which we decided to support, and we decided to just take actively part in it and doing the full thing, not doing anything behind closed door, and straight doing it up on GitHub, hiring people, telling them please work on our stuff, but using the infrastructure the open source project provides. I think this might help a lot, but I'm not sure if I got the question right.
Okay, unfortunately, as I said, I'm not the technical expert here. I can't help you with the question, but what I would say at this end is I'd like to retake your last slide where you compared pros and cons of using open source. And this, I think that on the left-hand side, you had 5 very clear pros. On the right-hand side, there were these 2 problematic issues connected to legal aspect and licensing, which also in part are connected to lack of knowledge. This makes us very hopeful and says and is a demonstration about the potential, because the left-hand side pros are essential to work, to have a promising future for your systems, and there are ways to solve the right-hand side cons. So I would say thank you very much for this insight. Reto, was nice to be with you. And for the audience, there is a short break now. We are back again at 9:20. See you here with the next speaker. Thank you. Hello again at SFScon Business Talks. We have heard a lot about IoT now, and from IoT we go to business cases. It's all about business cases for open source right now. And Toby Langel, our next speaker, says that today pretty much companies have embraced open source. But while they are all keen to use open source, only a few really contribute to it. And yet, there is so much value in doing so. So why is Toby the right person to talk with us about this? Because he's founder of Unlock Open. Unlock Open is a boutique consulting firm that helps large organizations build a strong open source culture and leverage it to recruit, retain, and foster top software engineers, improve team efficiency, and boost innovation. So we are talking about recruiting, talent development, and innovation now. Toby's clients include, we said large companies. They include, in fact, Google, Microsoft, Intel, or Mozilla. Please, Toby, the stage is yours.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, and welcome to this conversation. So, I'm realizing that the slides are a bit cropped, so I guess what I have to do is that. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know that there's anything we can do about the slide cropping. I'm afraid. Okay, I guess we'll just have to deal with this. So the quotation that you can see at the top of this slide is a quote from a famous article by Mark Andreessen in the Wall Street Journal in August 2011. And it reads, "In short, software is eating the world," right? And it was this idea that was sort of novel at the time, that as software entered sort of the whole industry, it was going to bit by bit go into every vertical and turn every vertical into essentially a software-driven vertical. But when you look at the data that we see today about how ubiquitous open source has become, this is data from a Black Duck study in 2018, which shows that 96% of applications that they tested that year, that they did an audit of, contain open source. And in those, the amount of open source was roughly close to 60% of the actual code base, right? So I think we can, it's fair to say that we can revisit Mark Andreessen's quote today and say, in short, open source is eating the world, right? And so, while everyone is, and every company is relying heavily on open source today, we can't say that a lot of them are contributing back. Some are, but that's still not very common. And that begs the question, why would anyone why would any corporation really want to contribute to open source? It feels kind of awkward and strange to be just giving away the work that you're doing. And when you actually ask that question, that kind of answers you get is, are kind of really feel good and wishy-washy, right? You get things like, oh, it's for the common good, it's paying it forward, et cetera, right? And the problem with this is that when you actually put those sort of arguments on a scale, right, they tend to not weigh too much when the rest of the company, for example, the legal team or business, is going to come back to you with arguments like, well, we're going to lose IP, or we're losing competitive advantage, or we're increasing our risk, or we don't, we're wasting resources on this, or, even like we don't even know how to do open source properly, right? And so, that really tips the scale in favor of not contributing back to open source, which obviously is kind of problematic. And so what we can say here is, whereas companies understand the return on investment of using open source really, really well, the return on investment of contributing back to open source is not something that we talk about, and that's well understood at all. And the other aspect of that is open source, the risk of contributing to open source is similar to the risk of being attacked by a shark, right? Sharks are animals that are not really well understood, and the risk of actually being attacked by a shark is generally like highly exaggerated. And it's the same with the risk of contributing to open source. So in this talk, what I really want to do is to understand better the value of contributing to open source first, and then look at how we can actually de-risk the contribution process. And so for that, we'll look at three kinds of benefits of open source: strategic benefits first, operational benefits second, and then second order benefits last. So let's get started with strategic benefits. One of the key strategic benefits that you'll see a lot of large companies adopting is what I call commoditizing your complement. And that essentially means that if you have a business, you're in a much better position, much stronger position for that business if you're able to build on top of something that is commoditized or free, right? And one of the great ways of commoditizing something is actually to open source it. And so, as you'll see, that's what a lot of companies are actually practicing. Let's have a look at a few. Google, for example, their core business is search, right? And how do you get, well, it's selling ads essentially through search, right? And what does that need? Well, it needs eyeballs. It needs people actually going to watch their ads. And so the best way to commoditize that complement is to open source a browser, Chromium, right? And an operating system for mobile devices, Android. Now look at Intel. Intel does what? They sell essentially software chips. And what is the complement to software chips? Well, it's an operating system, obviously. And so unsurprisingly, Intel is the biggest contributor to the Linux open source project. Similarly, Red Hat selling sort of, for lack of a better term, services and essentially productizing open source projects. Well, what is the complement? Well, it's an operating system. It's Linux, right? And a last example, which is kind of interesting because it's a bit different, but falls in the same category. One can, describe Facebook's business as essentially data mining to analyze user behavior and target advertisers. And so, unsurprisingly, their biggest cost here is the data centers and the hardware centers, outside, obviously, of their engineers. And unsurprisingly, Facebook started a project called the Open Compute Project, which is all about open sourcing hardware components for data centers. And that has actually earned them billions in savings in terms of electricity cost and in terms of creating a level competing field from which they can actually purchase the equipment that they rely on. All right. So yeah, this slide says on-ramp developers. That's a second strategy that is very common, especially in the cloud companies right now. The idea is if you're selling any kind of service that developers are relying on, this is essentially a bottom-up sales strategy. If you're selling any kind of product that developers are relying on, give them access to it in an open source way at first, so that they can use it for free. And then when they actually have to run it in production, make that a purchase, offer that as a service, right? And so this is like the typical strategy you see in cloud, and that is also highly effective. Let's look at operational benefits quickly. The very common one is to just pay back technical debt. It's extremely expensive to be able to have to maintain a fork of a project. And for example, right? And so upstreaming bug fixes is a very good way to start being active in open source contribution, and will really help you with technical debt concerns. Similarly, this is what happened in the React ecosystem, which is really interesting. It's leveraging external contributions. When React was launched, Facebook launched with it at the same time a number of white papers about different components like React Router and Redux that would be helpful in the ecosystem. And so they did. And the outcome of that was that external contributors actually built those really well, so that Facebook was then able to adopt them and sort of like stop working on the proof of concept that they had built internally. Right, so we've talked about strategic benefits and operational benefits. Let's quickly look at second order benefits. This for me is the biggest category that's really often forgotten and that we really should be paying more attention to. I don't know if you've ever seen that process diagram. It's essentially a process diagram where you have problems and coffee as input to an engineer, and the engineer spits out a solution, and sarcasm is a byproduct, right? So, I find that kind of funny. If you change that for a software engineer instead of an engineer, nothing much changes except the output is code. Let's now have a look at what happens if the software engineer, instead of just writing code, is writing code that goes to the commons, right? Is writing open source code. Well, shortly, another software engineer shows up and participates and writes code and outputs code to the same commons. And what's interesting is what happens between these two engineers who potentially come from highly different backgrounds. Maybe they don't work for the same companies. Maybe one is a professional developer working for a large tech company, and the other one is a student working somewhere. What's really interesting is the interaction. Right? You start having conversations between those two, code reviews, mentoring, networking, presence at events, etc. Right? And remember the sarcasm byproduct that I mentioned earlier. Well, it turns out that all of these interactions between these engineers actually create a bunch of byproducts too, right? And those are really interesting. You want to have things like increased code quality. You want to have things like adopting best practice as a result, improving the culture and the moral, etc. Right? And you can turn all of these byproducts into four sort of like nice categories organized around byproducts that benefit the project, the individual, the team, and the organization. And you see a lot in there that is extremely beneficial, actually. If you care about your engineers, if you want to see them improve, having them contribute to open source is something that's very effective to do so. And it's also something that's going to help your teams get better, innovate. And finally, it's something that's going to affect you as a company, as an organization, right? It's going to, improve the culture and the moral of your company and the people working in it. It's going to make you be perceived as an industry leader. It's going to help you hire better and faster, etc. So let's look at three. I'm sorry, like all of the links which are below this weird cut are. I'll share my slides at the end of the talk anyway, so you'll be able to get the full slides. This is an example by Professor Frank Nagel that did research on this topic, and he was able to show that companies that contribute to open source are twice as efficient as those that don't. Similarly, at Facebook, we ran a survey a number of years ago, before Facebook was IPO'd, before it had all of the privacy issues that it has now, when it was really like this exciting Silicon Valley startup that every engineer wanted to join. And yet 75% of new engineering recruits mentioned the open source practice at Facebook being key to their wanting to join the company. The last example I want to quickly mention is Trivago. Trivago is got some really sponsored an open source project, Webpack, and as a result was perceived in Europe as an industry leader in their space and was able to hire a lot of JavaScript engineers just by sponsoring a project. So we've talked about things to sort of like tip the scale the other way. And let's quickly talk about mitigating the risk of contributing to open source. I'm just going to quickly touch about the losing competitive advantage a point which is often brought up. It turns out that in practice, your real competitors are focused on long-term strategy and will not just be copying you. So this is essentially not something that actually in practice turns out to be a real problem. And I'm running out of time, am I?
Okay, we are coming to the end of the time. I'm so sorry, but it's so stricted as we have that.
Okay.
But, however, thank you very much, Toby. It was a perfect presentation, and I think that in particular you were able to show how software and open source is going to reach the world, but I would define it in a more positive way. It's going to contribute not only to the better of the world, but you showed how it is going to contribute to the better of the companies who not only use it, but who contribute to it. And this is a big message, not only a vision, but you also had real good examples to show us how it can work. Thank you very much, Toby. We will be back again with you, dear audience, in 5 minutes. See you soon. Hello again at SFScon track about business models. And I'm very happy to have this time with me the University of Bolzano in the person of Jorge Melegatti, who is a researcher at the Faculty for Computer Science. And Jorge says that to be effectively experimentation-driven, a very first step is to move from a feature-driven mindset to a mindset of hypothesis thinking. This new way of thinking is focused on taking product assumptions as hypotheses that should be tested and developing experiments to test this assumption. So assumption, hypothesis, and experiments to test it before creating the final software. So Jorge Melegatti is now going to introduce the concept of hypothesis engineering and present a set of industry practices in this field. Welcome, Jorge. The stage is yours. Okay, Jorge, I think you have your microphone muted. We are not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's fine now. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, also for the introduction and for the reminder. Good morning, all. I think I hope everybody has a good day. Good morning, everybody.
Jorge, just a moment. Is it possible to put also your camera on so we can hear and see you? Is that possible?
Yeah, now.
Okay, it's fine now. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think everybody was set back. Okay, sorry, thank you again. So I think most of the people here that are listening to us, or people maybe all of them are somehow involved in software development, and probably most of them are developers. So generally, my first question to you is, how do you generally describe what you develop? If you're in a more traditional environment of software development, or in a more sensible environment of financial or this kind of environment, you probably use a long requirement document. You probably maybe use like a RUP template, a RUP template of several pages of describing what you should do. What's the requirement?
Jorge, sorry again. Would it be possible to share your screen? We can't see your presentation.
I don't know what's happening.
We seem to have some technical issues. Okay, now it seems perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, so probably if you use a long requirement document, it's probably several pages long. If you are agile, probably use a user story template. Use user stories with Kanban, and for instance, as a user, I want to something, so that something else. What do all these methods have in common? They describe in different levels the feature the software system should have. Using them, the development team could design and code the solution. And generally, how do you define your requirements? How you reach them? Probably talking to your customers, often based on how you understand the problem. But what to do when the product is innovative? If you're creating something new, even the same for an open source project. You're starting an open source project and you don't have users yet, and you want to understand if it's valid. Invest your time and resources doing that. This can happen in novel ideas, novel products, novel software solutions, or even novel features for an existing product. Generally, you can make experiments. For instance, you can do A/B testing. You can put change a little bit something in your system and see and compare the solution, the response to these different solutions. You can do canary releases. For instance, if you can show a new version for a specific for a fraction of your users. But you can also do like a survey with your existing customer or potential customers. You can talk to them through interviews. But how can we describe experiments and tell the team to guide the team to perform these experiments? We have to remember that here the goal is not to develop a final solution. It's to answer something, a question that we have about this new product with confidence. And probably requirements are like squares into a circle, right? It's not probably the answer because the requirements give the idea of a final solution, a clear description. So we argue that we should think about hypotheses. So what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is an explicit statement that has not been proved yet, but could be tested through an experiment. I want to give you some examples of hypotheses so you could have a better feeling of that. For instance, really common in websites and web development is changing color of buttons. For instance, we have like a final button, a call to action button, it's red, and we think that maybe the blue color is better. So one hypothesis that we have, that's the blue color button brings better results than the red button. Or we can go to something more technical. We use now library B to perform a determined task, and a group of people want to argue that library A is better. So a hypothesis is library A is faster than library B. So we can perform experiments to test this. Although these are more clear, you can also have on a more higher level, let's say, for instance, testing the whole business model. For instance, a good example for me is Airbnb. For instance, imagine that you are in 2008 and there's no Airbnb, and you had the idea, and your first reaction as a developer is to develop the whole solution. We think that if you think, well, actually there are two main hypotheses here that are killing assumptions that you take about the customers. First, for Airbnb to work, travelers would be willing to stay at a stranger's house, because if you think previously, you had a hotel, you have this business that you can trust, you can trust it. But can you trust, as a traveler, the travelers will trust a stranger to stay in their houses, and the other way around as well. If the hosts will accept strangers on their own houses, that's also a problem. It's an interesting story of Airbnb that the founders started. They had this understanding that they should test, and they were living in San Francisco, and it's quite an expensive place. So their first test was when there was a conference, a large conference in the city, and they decided to test. So they had a large living room and they put 3 air mattresses and advertised it on the internet, on an ad platform, and they got 3 people interested. So that's why Airbnb, because it's air mattress, and they offered also the breakfast. So that's why Airbnb. I think it's a really interesting story of how to test a hypothesis that you have for your business without developing many things. So having that said, so what is out there already in the industry? So we investigated this in our research, and I want to bring some results that we saw that is already being doing in the industry already, and we think more people could take advantage of it. So we saw that practitioners observe different types of hypotheses. You can have hypotheses about your problem, about specific features, if those features are useful or not, if that customer that you're thinking your product for is the correct customer or not. Hypotheses, they also see some qualities or some characteristics of this hypothesis. For instance, a good hypothesis should be falsifiable in the sense that you should be able to test it, in the sense that you could, an experiment could make it make you sure that it's false or not, it's valid or not. It should be specific. You should be testing only one thing, and not many things. Because then your experiment will be a little bit more complicated, and you will not be able to test if that's true or not. We also observed some activities that they are doing. So there are several practices already in the industry to elicit this hypothesis. That is, what are your hypotheses? So this practice could help you to understand what are the hypotheses that you should tackle. One example is, for instance, business model canvas, but lean canvas, several of these canvases, but also you can think of even talking to customers, and you can see if they're hypotheses or not. Then you have to somehow get this information and write these in a way to communicate in your team. For instance, that is how to write this hypothesis down. There are templates like user stories templates. You also use these we believe that give this idea of testing. Finally, there is also the prioritization. So how can you understand which hypothesis you should test first? You should experiment with that. Common example is for this practice is several matrices that you compare the impact of this problem with the probability of being wrong, for instance. So if this hypothesis has a large probability of being wrong, and if it's wrong, it's a killing exception, probably you will test it first. We also saw 2 other type of practice with analyzing and managing all these hypotheses, but there are much less examples in the practitioners, from practitioners. So we think that these 3 first is more important if you want to start this in your company. So I'd like to thank you for yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Was a very interesting presentation and talk about hypothesis engineering, about experimentation, or to use other very trendy words now about agile or the lean startup method or innovation accounting. So all methods that are natural for you that are scientists. I think it's more difficult to implement methods like this. So to think about hypotheses, to think about the criteria for a test and the test scheme itself, and to know from the beginning when your test will be successful or less. Do you know perhaps about the main problems, the main difficulties industries face when introducing such agile schemes and management models in their practice?
I think that's a good question, and I think it's a little bit the major problem is because it represents a thinking shift. You have to stop thinking about developing something, and you should because this is natural thing for engineers, right? We are general engineers, and we generally get the plan and get the plan done in the best way possible. Here we want we want you to get a step back and think if you are doing it really makes sense or not. So this is thinking shift is we think that's the biggest challenge.
Okay, thanks for the answer. I take the moment to invite you also to go to Sankt Virtual, to San Virtuale, our online village with a restaurant where you can open a table and talk with audience about this argument. You have access through the SFScon webpage, so we also have the break afterwards. It's a chance for you to get in touch with the audience. And I saw before with Toby Lengel, we had some questions, but they came too late to ask it directly to him. So if Toby is still with us, the same invitation to you, open a table in Sankt Virtual, you can get in direct contact with your audience there. Thank you so much.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello and welcome again. We are here at the number 7 track about business models at SFScon. For those of you who are joining us only now, we have talked so far about IoT, business cases and experimentation. Interesting talks, but you can also see them if you haven't been with us so far on the internet page beginning from next week. Now we are coming to communities, and we have with us Damien Beckoff, who says that this year, the famous 2020 year, the coronavirus pandemic accelerate ways and means of working together, and so communities. And with the digital transformation that happens right now, new questions are asked, and he also thinks that probably the Gartner hype cycle will need some modification. And he names as examples the exploding virtual reality, augmented reality, or drones technology. So Damien Beckoff now will tell us about the benefits to build and maintain agile engineering open source communities on social media platforms. Thank you very much. Damien, the stage is yours.
Hello. Hi there. Today I would like to start with a simple question. Is it worth to live and to work in online communities? That it makes sense to contribute to communities? No question. If they are free, transparent, and reliable, why not? Especially these times, we are experiencing an intensive digital transformation where fast adoption of creative and innovative solutions is required and might be very beneficial for the future. My name is Damien Beckoff. I'm a 46 years old engineer from Software Germany in full-time working on sophisticated technical topics for large mobile machines and applications. Beyond this, my free time dealing with open source engineering software and communities on different platforms. On the next few slides, I would like to present some insights related to software communities and provide some remarks and recommendations based on my own experience and taken lessons learned. What I exactly mean by engineering open source software, in this case, that's a software category that helps to develop and improve sophisticated technical products in a virtual environment. It can be used for design, simulation, and for testing. Some examples are 3D CAD, computational fluid dynamics, CFD, finite elements analysis, FEA, and all tools for the upstream and downstream processes. One of the most popular and known packages is the Live CAE Linux distribution, which started already more than 15 years ago. I've listed the most common solutions, but a lot of others are available for different purposes. For example, one of the listed packages is being used to design and to simulate processes in a nuclear power plant by a large company in France. This software category has a long history and is in some cases very well established in the industry and used by freelancers and makers. And you might not expect big teams or companies behind these projects, but they are indeed some very successful ones, which became a part of very interesting stories. So let's ask, what are the elements of a software online user group? Primarily, there is a software-related topic which we want to discuss, and then an online space or platform is needed where the members can interact with each other and with some developers or maintainers. At the end, some experienced admins and moderators are needed to ensure standards during communication. In general, this task is automated more and more and maybe will be taken over by intelligent algorithms in the future. Simply speaking, a user group should be a place for communication. We already know communities are a good place for communication, but what should be the purpose of a community? In general, to solve a software-related and often urgent issue, but also to discuss current projects and new ideas, maybe to provide info about new releases and updates, to help with some bug fixing for different operating system platforms and configurations, to give info about upcoming events, also possibility to register to a newsletter to get updated, feedback to the developers and the software company or the team which stands behind the project. All these functions are mostly covered by professional forums and user groups. The next question is where to look for specific software communities. Okay, before we simply start unconsidered searches on different search engines, we might check to some project repositories or the vendor's web page for already available forums and user groups. This is probably the best solution. As a secondary possibility, one could also check the available groups on social media platforms or ask friends and workmates with similar interests. Sometimes the biggest issue for new users is the ability to find the crucial information on the internet for a specific topic. Due to simple inability, lack of experience or patience to search, but it's not so simple to blame the user for that, because one other reason might be not the best ranking on search engines for these pages and forums based on my experience. What are the ingredients for success related to engineering software? Beyond the software itself, some professional documentation, templates, and real-life examples. The reliable and transparent user communities are an essential success factor in sophisticated product and service development. So how the best technical solution for user groups might look like? Let's have a look on the long shopping list. Yeah, it should run on well-known and widely held platforms. Should be easy to register and to access by the users. Yeah, we should also have high data security and data protection standard. It should have some good features for the admins and some monitoring tools. Provide extended content sharing, for example, for pics, videos, demonstrations, presentations. Some tools to set up events, webinars, polls. Maybe groups can be linked to other pages or to sub-pages, to subgroups, libraries for files, 3D model templates, and so on. And of course, they should be also trustful and reliable. So it might be really tricky to find one. What does the user really want? The most users have a software-related problem and are looking for the fastest possible solution. Let's also ask another question. Who is a typical software user and potential community member or contributor? So it's everyone who is interested into the specific topic, from students to a university professor over to makers, freelancers, and R&D experts in big companies. Sorry. So there are some people of different ages and from different cultural and technical background, and also different interests. So let's ask, what are good places to join a software community or to build one? That's just a short and limited overview about the available platforms and pages, which might at least partly deliver the technical features. But what is with the transparency, reliability, and data protection requirements, which should become standards in the modern digital world? Why not to use what's already available today? What are the main barriers? So based on my observations, there are each two main categories for the user itself and for the communities. We can split it in personal preferences and technical reasons. To offer the best possible community solutions requires the understanding of typical problems areas. On the user side, personal preferences, there are sometimes limited time to use complicated platforms or solutions. Language barrier may be not available in the user's language. Barriers to ask complicated questions in a public community, but some users only want to take without giving something useful back to the community. A lot of content can be found already on the internet, for example, on Quora or Stack Overflow pages like that, and easy to find if you know how to search for that. A user might be interested in spam and scam and not in the specific topic. That's an observation on some big groups on famous social media platforms. And some technical aspects. They want to be connected with others on popular social media platforms and share the content. They want integrated solutions. Also on the community side exist few personal barriers. They are complicated. Registration process, additional login data is required. Only topic-related content is allowed, and old, not updated content, not responsive members sometimes. It's difficult to find on the internet and not connected to their social media networks. But also small user base or contaminated with spam and scam. At least we could get rid of the technical barriers in the communities, for example, lacking in data security and personal data protection standards, and of course, transparency. A complicated registration process or additional login data required. We could also think how to connect it to social media networks and how to get rid of contaminated spam and scam activities. So it's time to ask, Quo vadis user, which simply means where do you go? Hopefully not in a dead end. A bunch of topic-related knowledge in different qualities is already available on different platforms, structured in forums and user groups or unstructured on websites. There is no one-fits-all solution, especially the large commercial social media platforms have their own interests, and that is to make business with advertisement and user data and behavior. All in one, profit over user. Why someone profit-oriented should provide a sophisticated technical solution without charging for it at the end of the day in a certain way. And last but not least, some remarks and recommendations. At first, search at the source, try to speak with the software developer or maintainer about the current status and your main motivation and issues. Probably that's the first place we should invest our motivation to generate the best possible output. Where is your highest competence? Do not create redundant communities. That's not added value. And we never must mix technical communities related topics with sensitive political topics. That's probably the wrong platform. We could also extend existing lists with relevant links and open source pages or Wikipedia. We could provide the right keywords for the search on the internet. And in case no good functioning community exists, look for small and responsive companies which already adopted the specific technical software solution. Most companies are very interested in such activities. One of my main takeaways is the need to catch and to satisfy the new software user directly at the first touch with the specific software solution. And this should happen on the provider's website, community, or in the related repository. So let's go this way together. Together we are united. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention. I'm waiting for your comments, suggestions, and questions.
Thanks to you and for this great presentation. I think that in the last months, really everybody in this world, not only open source freaks, realized how important these open source communities are. But a presentation like this make it also possible to know what the key points are in constructing such a community. There are actually no questions from the audience, but you know that there is the table at San Virtuale, Sankt Virtual, our virtual village at the SFScon website you can access, and you can discuss there directly with the audience about this issue. I can announce now that from 10:20 to 10:50, we will have a live online session on track number 5. It's all about free open source for young talents, so the invitation to the audience to join track number 5 right now. At 10:50, we will have a coffee break, chance to take your coffee or tea at Sankt Virtual or wherever. And on 11:20, we will be back here. We hope you join us again. And I really recommend it to join us again because we are talking about ecosystem, blockchain, project management, and iterative solution and simulation with well-known speakers. And I'm happy to see you again. So bye in the meantime. Enjoy your coffee.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neutech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telecom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars. Thinking outside of the box creates innovation. Therefore, I'm convinced that we all need ideas from young people, and if we manage to combine young ideas with open source, we can create something new and unexpected. So, free software is the real key to innovation. I love to link it to another saying, public money, public code. When we keep that in mind, we can achieve real breakthroughs in the fields of innovation and technology.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leslie Hawthorne from the Office of the CTO in the Open Source Program Office at Red Hat. Red Hat is a global company specializing in creating a full-stack open source software solution set. We provide everything from the operating system in Red Hat Enterprise Linux to software for containerized application development through our OpenShift product line. We build our business around support subscriptions and consulting services. Red Hat has been a proud participant in SFScon previously, and we are very excited to be back this year to support this vibrant community in Bolzano and beyond. Red Hat focuses on preserving customer choice and supporting open innovation by providing open source hybrid cloud solutions. But it's not just about our software stack. We believe that open source development methodologies and an open organizational approach to our work creates better software, higher performing teams, and more empowered employees. As companies across the globe work towards digital transformation, we are there to support them with both our products and our expertise as a technology partner that has been working the open source way since day one of our company. Red Hat knows that upstream first open source collaboration and co-creation are the best ways to build software. For me personally, it's the strength of the communities that come together to build free and open source software that has kept me invested in the space for the past 15 plus years. I've seen the power of open source to solve some of the world's greatest technical challenges, and I am particularly excited to see what the principles of collaboration, co-creation, and transparencies in open source communities can do to help everyone in the world who is approaching problem solving now in order to improve life and make things better for everyone. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at SFScon.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Cima and I'm the CEO of Made in Cima, a web agency based in Trento, Italy. We are a young company made up of young people really passionate about user experience. We have overall more than 15-year experience in prototyping, designing, and developing stunning and highly usable websites and web applications. We also create effective digital strategies, which involve online communication, web marketing, social media, SEO, usability testing, and more. We've been involved in SFScon since 2013, when we first designed and built the SFScon website. We've always worked with open source technologies and free software, so we were really thrilled when we got the chance to work on the SFScon project. Since then, we've kept working on it, improving it to make your online experience better and better every year. And of course, as we strongly believe in free software, we are also sponsor of this beautiful and important event. Going back to Made in Cima, the agency stands out in particular for its sartorial approach and the user-centered design methodology. We design every strategy, website, interface tailored to the marketing and communication goals and to the final users. Just to give you an example, we don't ever use ready-to-use themes for websites. We do our own. That means no constraints whatsoever to creativity or technical solutions. Instead, it means high quality and custom open source products. We've decided to support SFScon because we really believe that free software, with its large and super active community, is the only way to keep creating better digital products and make the internet a better place. We wish all the best to the outstanding speakers and participants of this edition. Get in touch on madeincima.com. We can't wait to hear about your project, based on free software, of course.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neutech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telmecom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars. Thinking outside of the box creates innovation. Therefore, I'm convinced that we all need ideas from young people, and if we manage to combine young ideas with open source, we can create something new and unexpected. So, free software is the real key to innovation. I love to link it to another saying, public money, public code. When we keep that in mind, we can achieve real breakthroughs in the fields of innovation and technology.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leslie Hawthorne from the Office of the CTO in the Open Source Program Office at Red Hat. Red Hat is a global company specializing in creating a full-stack open source software solution set. We provide everything from the operating system in Red Hat Enterprise Linux to software for containerized application development through our OpenShift product line. We build our business around support subscriptions and consulting services. Red Hat has been a proud participant in SFScon previously, and we are very excited to be back this year to support this vibrant community in Bolzano and beyond. Red Hat focuses on preserving customer choice and supporting open innovation by providing open source hybrid cloud solutions. But it's not just about our software stack. We believe that open source development methodologies and an open organizational approach to our work creates better software, higher performing teams, and more empowered employees. As companies across the globe work towards digital transformation, we are there to support them with both our products and our expertise as a technology partner that has been working the open source way since day one of our company. Red Hat knows that upstream first open source collaboration and co-creation are the best ways to build software. For me personally, it's the strength of the communities that come together to build free and open source software that has kept me invested in the space for the past 15 plus years. I've seen the power of open source to solve some of the world's greatest technical challenges, and I am particularly excited to see what the principles of collaboration, co-creation, and transparencies in open source communities can do to help everyone in the world who is approaching problem solving now in order to improve life and make things better for everyone. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at SFScon.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Cima and I'm the CEO of Made in Cima, a web agency based in Trento, Italy. We are a young company made up of young people really passionate about user experience. We have overall more than 15-year experience in prototyping, designing, and developing stunning and highly usable websites and web applications. We also create effective digital strategies, which involve online communication, web marketing, social media, SEO, usability testing, and more. We've been involved in SFScon since 2013, when we first designed and built the SFScon website. We've always worked with open source technologies and free software, so we were really thrilled when we got the chance to work on the SFScon project. Since then, we've kept working on it, improving it, to make your online experience better and better every year. And of course, as we strongly believe in free software, we are also sponsor of this beautiful and important event. Going back to Made in Cima, the agency stands out in particular for its sartorial approach and the user-centered design methodology. We design every strategy, website, interface tailored to the marketing and communication goals and to the final users. Just to give you an example, we don't ever use ready-to-use themes for websites. We do our own. That means no constraints whatsoever to creativity or technical solutions. Instead, it means high quality and custom open source products. We've decided to support SFScon because we really believe that free software, with its large and super active community, is the only way to keep creating better digital products and make the internet a better place. We wish all the best to the outstanding speakers and participants of this edition. Get in touch on madeincima.com. We can't wait to hear about your project, based on free software, of course.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neue Tech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telmicom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars. Thinking outside of the box creates innovation. Therefore, I'm convinced that we all need ideas from young people, and if we manage to combine young ideas with open source, we can create something new and unexpected. So, free software is the real key to innovation. I love to link it to another saying, public money, public code. When we keep that in mind, we can achieve real breakthroughs in the fields of innovation and technology.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leslie Hawthorne from the Office of the CTO in the Open Source Program Office at Red Hat. Red Hat is a global company specializing in creating a full-stack open source software solution set. We provide everything from the operating system in Red Hat Enterprise Linux to software for containerized application development through our OpenShift product line. We build our business around support subscriptions and consulting services. Red Hat has been a proud participant in SFScon previously, and we are very excited to be back this year to support this vibrant community in Bolzano and beyond. Red Hat focuses on preserving customer choice and supporting open innovation by providing open source hybrid cloud solutions. But it's not just about our software stack. We believe that open source development methodologies and an open organizational approach to our work creates better software, higher performing teams, and more empowered employees. As companies across the globe work towards digital transformation, we are there to support them with both our products and our expertise as a technology partner that has been working the open source way since day one of our company. Red Hat knows that upstream first open source collaboration and co-creation are the best ways to build software. For me personally, it's the strength of the communities that come together to build free and open source software that has kept me invested in the space for the past 15 plus years. I've seen the power of open source to solve some of the world's greatest technical challenges, and I am particularly excited to see what the principles of collaboration, co-creation, and transparencies in open source communities can do to help everyone in the world who is approaching problem solving now in order to improve life and make things better for everyone. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at SFScon.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Cima and I'm the CEO of Made in Cima, a web agency based in Trento, Italy. We are a young company made up of young people really passionate about user experience. We have overall more than 15-year experience in prototyping, designing and developing stunning and highly usable websites and web applications. We also create effective digital strategies which involve online communication, web marketing, social media, SEO, usability testing and more. We've been involved in SFScon since 2013, when we first designed and built the SFScon website. We've always worked with open source technologies and free software, so we were really thrilled when we got the chance to work on the SFScon project. Since then, we've kept working on it, improving it to make your online experience better and better every year. And of course, as we strongly believe in free software, we are also sponsor of this beautiful and important event. Going back to Made in Cima, the agency stands out in particular for its sartorial approach and the user-centered design methodology. We design every strategy, website, interface tailored to the marketing and communication goals and to the final users. Just to give you an example, we don't ever use ready-to-use themes for websites. We do our own. That means no constraints whatsoever to creativity or technical solutions. Instead, it means high quality and custom open source products. We've decided to support SFScon because we really believe that free software, with its large and super active community, is the only way to keep creating better digital products and make the internet a better place. We wish all the best to the outstanding speakers and participants of this edition. Get in touch on madeincima.com. We can't wait to hear about your project, based on free software, of course.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neutech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telmecom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars. Thinking outside of the box creates innovation. Therefore, I'm convinced that we all need ideas from young people, and if we manage to combine young ideas with open source, we can create something new and unexpected. So, free software is the real key to innovation. I love to link it to another saying, public money, public code. When we keep that in mind, we can achieve real breakthroughs in the fields of innovation and technology.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leslie Hawthorne from the Office of the CTO in the Open Source Program Office at Red Hat. Red Hat is a global company specializing in creating a full-stack open source software solution set. We provide everything from the operating system in Red Hat Enterprise Linux to software for containerized application development through our OpenShift product line. We build our business around support subscriptions and consulting services. Red Hat has been a proud participant in SFScon previously, and we are very excited to be back this year to support this vibrant community in Bolzano and beyond. Red Hat focuses on preserving customer choice and supporting open innovation by providing open source hybrid cloud solutions. But it's not just about our software stack. We believe that open source development methodologies and an open organizational approach to our work creates better software, higher performing teams, and more empowered employees. As companies across the globe work towards digital transformation, we are there to support them with both our products and our expertise as a technology partner that has been working the open source way since day one of our company. Red Hat knows that upstream first open source collaboration and co-creation are the best ways to build software. For me personally, it's the strength of the communities that come together to build free and open source software that has kept me invested in the space for the past 15 plus years. I've seen the power of open source to solve some of the world's greatest technical challenges, and I am particularly excited to see what the principles of collaboration, co-creation, and transparencies in open source communities can do to help everyone in the world who is approaching problem solving now in order to improve life and make things better for everyone. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at SFScon.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Cima, and I'm the CEO of Made in Cima, a web agency based in Trento, Italy. We are a young company made up of young people really passionate about user experience. We have overall more than 15-year experience in prototyping, designing, and developing stunning and highly usable websites and web applications. We also create effective digital strategies, which involve online communication, web marketing, social media, SEO, usability testing, and more. We've been involved in SFScon since 2013, when we first designed and built the SFScon website. We've always worked with open source technologies and free software, so we were really thrilled when we got the chance to work on the SFScon project. Since then, we've kept working on it, improving it, to make your online experience better and better every year. And of course, as we strongly believe in free software, we are also sponsor of this beautiful and important event. Going back to Made in Cima, the agency stands out in particular for its sartorial approach and the user-centered design methodology. We design every strategy, website, interface tailored to the marketing and communication goals and to the final users. Just to give you an example, we don't ever use ready-to-use themes for websites. We do our own. That means no constraints whatsoever to creativity or technical solutions. Instead, it means high quality and custom open source products. We've decided to support SFScon because we really believe that free software, with its large and super active community, is the only way to keep creating better digital products and make the internet a better place. We wish all the best to the outstanding speakers and participants of this edition. Get in touch on madeincima.com. We can't wait to hear about your project, based on free software, of course.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neutech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telmicom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars. Thinking outside of the box creates innovation. Therefore, I'm convinced that we all need ideas from young people, and if we manage to combine young ideas with open source, we can create something new and unexpected. So, free software is the real key to innovation. I love to link it to another saying, public money, public code. When we keep that in mind, we can achieve real breakthroughs in the fields of innovation and technology.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leslie Hawthorne from the Office of the CTO in the Open Source Program Office at Red Hat. Red Hat is a global company specializing in creating a full-stack open source software solution set. We provide everything from the operating system in Red Hat Enterprise Linux to software for containerized application development through our OpenShift product line. We build our business around support subscriptions and consulting services. Red Hat has been a proud participant in SFScon previously, and we are very excited to be back this year to support this vibrant community in Bolzano and beyond. Red Hat focuses on preserving customer choice and supporting open innovation by providing open source hybrid cloud solutions. But it's not just about our software stack. We believe that open source development methodologies and an open organizational approach to our work creates better software, higher performing teams, and more empowered employees. As companies across the globe work towards digital transformation, we are there to support them with both our products and our expertise as a technology partner that has been working the open source way since day one of our company. Red Hat knows that upstream first open source collaboration and co-creation are the best ways to build software. For me personally, it's the strength of the communities that come together to build free and open source software that has kept me invested in the space for the past 15 plus years. I've seen the power of open source to solve some of the world's greatest technical challenges, and I am particularly excited to see what the principles of collaboration, co-creation, and transparencies in open source communities can do to help everyone in the world who is approaching problem solving now in order to improve life and make things better for everyone. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at SFScon.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Cima, and I'm the CEO of Made in Cima, a web agency based in Trento, Italy. We are a young company made up of young people really passionate about user experience. We have overall more than 15-year experience in prototyping, designing, and developing stunning and highly usable websites and web applications. We also create effective digital strategies, which involve online communication, web marketing, social media, SEO, usability testing, and more. We've been involved in SFScon since 2013, when we first designed and built the SFScon website. We've always worked with open source technologies and free software, so we were really thrilled when we got the chance to work on the SFScon project. Since then, we've kept working on it, improving it to make your online experience better and better every year. And of course, as we strongly believe in free software, we are also sponsor of this beautiful and important event. Going back to Made in Cima, the agency stands out in particular for its sartorial approach and the user-centered design methodology. We design every strategy, website, interface tailored to the marketing and communication goals and to the final users. Just to give you an example, we don't ever use ready-to-use themes for websites. We do our own. That means no constraints whatsoever to creativity or technical solutions. Instead, it means high quality and custom open source products. We've decided to support SFScon because we really believe that free software, with its large and super active community, is the only way to keep creating better digital products and make the internet a better place. We wish all the best to the outstanding speakers and participants of this edition. Get in touch on madeinchima.com. We can't wait to hear about your project, based on free software, of course.
Hey, I'm Davide. I'm the director of the Open Source Technology Center here at Huawei. The Open Source Technology Center is a pan-European strategic technological hub that leverages open source talent and expertise across multiple locations, including Milan, Warsaw, Helsinki, Munich, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cork, and many more to come. Our charter is to drive open source innovation via technical and business collaboration. Open Harmony is our first big project. The idea is to create an open ecosystem of consumer device makers and build together a new cooperative and distributed operating system that has as a priority the end consumer and their rights to take back control of their privacy, security, usability, and convenience of choice. SFScon is not just an event for us. It's the symbol of the strong collaboration with Neutech Park and the Free Software Foundation Europe. Together, we want to drive the message that focusing from the early phases of an open source project on IP compliance, governance, and transparency not only is cool, but it is also the right thing to do to mitigate business risks. Many companies are approaching open source technology to leverage the vast opportunities that it sets aside, often forgetting, though, to prioritize their actions on compliance and IP protection issues. Our starting point with Open Harmony is obviously being related to achieve a modern FOSS policy. We want to provide Open Harmony and the Open Source Technology Center with a DevOps infrastructure able to implement an open source continuous license compliance. Open source technology and open governance are the beating heart of Open Harmony. We truly believe that any project that is destined to live long must be built together in an open, accessible, and transparent way. Understanding market requests, requirements, and project needs is key. And that's why Huawei decided to establish the Open Source Technology Center in Europe and tap into the European open source talents and expertise pool. At Huawei, we believe that transparency, openness, and trust are key enablers to reach and build a strong and trusted ecosystem of developers, integrators, companies, and all the other stakeholders involved. Open Harmony is a journey that has just begun, and we want to make it together.
We are Telmicom, a tech company based in South Tyrol. Our focus is on telecommunications and networking. We offer the right solution for every type of connection, from internet to cloud systems, mobile and landline. For us, SFScon is the most important event for open source. We have been always part of it, so we couldn't miss it this year either. It is the right place to make innovation happen. Innovation is also one of our guiding stars.
Hello again, welcome back at SFScon track number 7, all about business models. We have here with us now Charles Schulz, and we spoke about hypotheses in this morning. Charles has his hypothesis, and he says that it's true that in order to ensure or safeguard our digital freedom, we certainly need regulation. And the hypothesis is that if there is a strong enough ecosystem of strategic IT infrastructure and other critical software stacks in Europe, we will be able to improve both our collective ability to choose and remain digitally free and sovereign as individuals, collective entities, and countries. So Charles is certainly the right speaker to talk about this. As French technologist and free software and open standard advocate, he joins us from Paris. And in his business life, he has accomplished so much that it would be too much to read it out here. So I invite you to read up his curriculum at the SFScon webpage. And I have to thank you, Charles, because you are here not the first time, but since 2007, you showed up different times, real, not only online, here in Bolzano. And it's good to have you back here, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here and to join you virtually this morning for the SFScon 2020. I think it's great that you are still capable of providing such a great platform for free software advocates, fans, and people who are in the free software industry. So, without much further ado, I would like to maybe start to introduce a little bit my topic. You hear a lot about how the efforts are ongoing in Europe about at the European level, but also at the member states level, on how to promote, how to facilitate the adoption of free and open source software at the public sector level, for instance, or for pretty much the majority of the business sectors. But today I would like to tell you about something else, which is that while you can have all sorts of regulation, I think that one of the key aspects of what it is we're trying to do and our capability and our ability to have success in promoting and spread the adoption of free software, one of that key success component is going to be making sure we have the right and proper and striving ecosystem of developers and businesses in Europe. So therefore, I would say regulation is good, yes, but what we also need to look into is to make sure that the software development, the free and open source software development, is actually striving and healthy. Because in the end, it's all about the importance of strategic IT infrastructure in Europe. Now, first, before I proceed even further, I would like to tell you a little bit about the company I'm working for. It's called Vates. Vates is actually a French free and open source software vendor, and what it does is that it develops free and open source software only. One is called Xen Orchestra, and it is an open source virtualization and virtual machines management and orchestration and backup system with a fully developed web interface. And it has historically been our first software offering. The other one is a Xen-based hypervisor. Again, it's fully free and open source software, and it's called XCP-NG. These are the two software, the two main offering that we're developing. In a nutshell, I would say that our mission is to develop secure open source infrastructure management solutions And the markets that we tend to address are, the traditional, so to speak, data center market, but we also address the hybrid cloud and also some specific industries such as cybersecurity and edge computing and Industry 4.0. XCP-ng today, or hypervisor, is a community and a project success. We have several hundreds monthly contributors on the forums. We have more than 100,000 unique downloads, and we started XCP-ng in 2018. So we're pretty excited about this. XCP-ng today provides an easy upgrade from Citrix Xen Server. But we just don't do that. We're also we're striving and we're aiming to be good citizens of the Xen project. So therefore, we contribute to the Xen core, the Xen project upstream, and we're also members of the Xen pre-disclosure lists. Whatever we do with Xen and XCP-ng is fully open source. You don't have any license keys. You don't have any feature restrictions. So we're trying to do the right thing here. Last but not least, Xen Orchestra is a mature solutions. It's fundamentally a management interface that is accessible from the web and from the command line. And essentially what you can do with it is you have a full backup solution, a full management solution, and you have the tools there to basically initiate and to prepare and set up a full cloud infrastructure. Now, we also have some interesting customers, but we have customers really from any kind of industry you might think. It can be government. We have the United States federal government. It can be banks. It can be large industrial companies. It can be telecom players. This can also be financial and hospitality business companies. So, we address all these types of industries, and we're very proud of that. And we like to have some, straightforward and comfortable conversations with our clients and instigate a good feedback loop in there. Now, to come back to the proper theme of this morning, the first thing that you might say, and that we might also consider, is that when you come to think about free and open source software policy, the first thing that comes to at least my mind is that it's been a political challenge in Europe for a very long time, both at the level of the member states and at the level of the European Commission, for instance. We've had a series of policy projects of attempts at driving and designing policies promoting the use of free and open source software in administrations or in promoting the adoption and the distribution of open source software all across Europe for a very long time. I think it's been at least for 20 years, maybe wrong, but it's something of that kind. And essentially, these have been sometimes extremely complex policy efforts, and sometimes they've been rather quite simple, incitative policies. But the one thing we can say is that it's been a challenge. It had mixed results. Sometimes at the regional level, for instance, or at some national level, policies basically clearly had the effect of mandating a broader use of free and open source software in administrations and public sector, but sometimes it pretty much got watered down, or the results that came out of it was not the ones that were expected. At the end of the day, we all have to agree on one thing. Free and open source software, to a whole lot of industries and stakeholders, well, that means that it is less expensive, it is more transparent. Did I say less expensive? Yes, it is less expensive. It is more secure. And what we can also say is that it is a strategic instrument for Europe. It has been a strategic instrument for Europe since many years, but it remains strategic because it is essentially a tool to achieve digital sovereignty, or at the very least, digital autonomy. And in understanding and on considering these points, then perhaps what we can see is why, despite being a challenge, and despite having been a challenge for so many years, we can still need and we need to continue pushing for the adoption of free and open source software, both in the private and public sector, because it is fundamentally essential to our economic well-being and to our own sovereignty, let's say. So here are a few examples of public sector initiatives, of policy initiatives that we have had since several years now. I'm going to start, going back in the past a little bit. So I'm talking here about things that happened in 2007, 2008, 2006, but also, all the way to 2012 at least. What we had has been a series of, I would say, FOSS-friendly policies at the level of the European Union. We had the IDABC, which is now a member of DG Connect. We have the IDABC mandating a whole series of mandates on interoperable software and interoperable data formats to be used all across Europe, the member states, the cross-border collaboration, and of course at the level of the European institutions themselves. That had led to all sorts of policy framework. These days, we're talking again about the EIF, the European Interoperability Framework, for instance. There is the European Interoperability Strategy, etc., and so on and so forth. That does not necessarily specifically mandate FOSS-friendly, the adoption of FOSS within the within the European Union, but what it does do is that it leads to a broader adoption of free and open source software by mandating the use of proper interoperable formats and protocols. We have the campaign for public money, public code. More recently, we've had the European Commission open source strategy, which is also important in its own rights. Some people might say it's limited. Some people might say it's actually very important, but it is an actual open source strategy that has been addressed and endorsed by the European Commission. And of course, at the regional and the national level, you're going to have all sorts of procurement requirements in terms of how to use and how to adopt the free and open source software. But how effective it has been, I think it's left out there for our own judgment, because it's quite complex to understand and to assess how effective it has been. If the answer to that is, well, it hasn't been effective because very clearly you don't have clear mandate and obligation to use free and open source software all across member state and European institutions, then yes, effectively, it hasn't been effective. Because there is no such policy, or at least when there are policies that leads to that, they're not properly executed and not properly implemented. Nonetheless, if I'm just talking in terms of business and industry sector, if you will, what we find is that at the level of the European Union, about free and open source software generated about 25 billion euros. 25 billion euros at the European level, which is actually quite good. And that was the number in 2019. And just in France, this is 5 billion euros. So that's quite something. Coming back to France, because it's an example that I know a little bit better than other countries, what you find is 70% of all the IT spending done in France by the public sector is done on free and open source software. So that is not trivial. That is not something which is to be forgotten. So I think there are some real results when it comes to policy and how we can nurture an ecosystem with policy. Yet, it's not enough. It's not enough because if you actually are focusing on the business ecosystem of free and open source software in Europe, what you find is policy is not the alpha and omega of everything. What you find is there are no clear support and encouragement for the free and open source software business ecosystem itself. Maybe the European institutions and the member states are lacking ambition. That is something that I can witness, let's say, that I can say. Maybe they're not actually lacking ambitions per se, but that is the result of what's going on. What I can see is that the adoption of free and open source software is only looked and considered through the lenses of public procurement. And this is a very limiting scope. Because what we really want to have is a reliance at every level, the European, the national, the regional level. We need to rely on local and European vendors and solution providers to grow the ecosystem, to nurture the ecosystem, and to actually achieve not just revenue generation, but actual economic outcome, positive economic outcomes. So we need to nurture and develop such a business ecosystem, such a developers ecosystem. So of course, public sector and the demand of public sector, it helps, as I showed you in France. This is very big, this is instrumental, but it's not enough. We need to have the private sector with us on this.
Okay. Charles,
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. I think your message was strong. Thank you for these insights in political decision-taking at European level concerning the open source software and community. We have run out of time, I'm very sorry for that, but we have this virtual tables at San Virtuale. You can open a table there and discuss this with the audience. I'm sure there are a lot who are interested in the topic and to talk to you. So we have 2 minutes now to the next presenter, and see you then. It's going again, or we are talking again about sovereignty of data, but this time from another perspective. See you later. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Smart everything and data devices. and data security. Is that a contradiction? We have here with us Elena Pasquali, start-upper, and she will talk about reconciling IoT and data privacy. She says that in 2030, so in 10 years, there will be something like 75 billion IoT devices in cities globally. And this certainly contributes to make cities safer, to make cities cleaner, and to make cities better. And that's an objective that you believe we all can share. But we have obviously a problem with the data security. So what she asks is how to reconcile that IoT and data security, that we individuals have the sovereignty of our data. Elena says from herself that some year ago she made a decision. She made a decision to move from London to Bolzano, and that this was the best decision in her life. So we are obviously very happy about that. We will miss you, Elena, if you were still in London instead of contributing to our vibrant ecosystem here at Neutech Park. So I'm very happy about your contribution here and what you have to tell us about your startup, EcoSteer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Petra, and thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. I am Elena Pasquali. I'm the CEO of EcoSteer. We are an IoT and blockchain software startup, and our objective is to create a new distributed and decentralized data economy. As Petra was saying, today I will talk about smart everything and data privacy. Are they really completely irreconcilable terms? Well, first of all, why is this important? Well, because by 2030 there will be more than 70 billion connected devices in our cities. And these devices will transform our assets as well as ourselves into our digital twins. And our digital twins will be sources of data streams that hold the promise of making our cities a smarter, cleaner, and safer place to live. We've actually learned how important our data is during the pandemic. Think about it. Think about how our movement data is important in order to track contagion. Well, we've divided ourselves into two camps related to sharing our data, to prevent the spread of contagion. On one side, the integralist, those of us who said, I will never share my data no matter what. On the other, the resigned, oh, well, I'm already sharing my data with God knows who for God knows what reasons. I might as well do it for the good of my community. Well, is it really true that data privacy and digital participation, the data privacy and smart everything cannot be reconciled? We think they can. And the answer is they can be reconciled thanks to blockchain. And why is that? The key feature of blockchain is decentralization based on consensus algorithm. That means that we have no more the need for a centralized authority to work as a guarantor of our transaction. What does it mean? Today, every time we execute a transaction, we sell a home, we sell a car, we share our data. We need to trust somebody, we need to trust an authority to execute and guarantee that transaction. Well, blockchain eliminates the need to trust a centralized authority to execute transactions and allow us to execute transactions between ourselves in a trustless environment based on the consensus between all the participants in the blockchain. Transaction decentralization holds the promise of enabling citizens to share their data in a manner that could be fully controlled and extremely rewarding, thus promoting new forms of digital participation. Why is that important, in fact? Well, think about it. The data economy today is monopolistic and centralized. And technically, the centralization means that the platforms we share our data with have exclusive control over access over our own data from third parties. An alternative to this centralization is possible, and actually it is the European privacy laws, the GDPR, that establish it. If my data is mine, I can manage it, I can dispose of it as I wish. This is the principle of data ownership that EcoSteer, my startup, has implemented technically by leveraging smart contracts in the blockchain and end-to-end encryption. Our data ownership platform is an overlay network, a data sharing governance layer that works on top of traditional data brokering platforms, decentralizing data access control and bringing it back in the hands of the legitimate data owners, ourselves. How does it work? End-to-end encryption. Data is encrypted at its point of generation. Our car telematics, our wearable, an energy meter. It crosses the data brokering platform still encrypted, and it reaches the final user of our data still encrypted. And it can only be decrypted with the explicit consent of myself, the data owner, a consent that I will give using a smart contract in the blockchain, thus decentralizing and disintermediating the data brokering platforms and creating direct relationships with all the entities, with all the institutions, with all the companies, with all the startups that are looking to use my data to create information that will enable business processes to run better and our cities to work better and ourselves to work in better environments. Our objective is to decentralize and distribute the data economy. So that means that we want cities and companies to create their own data marketplaces leveraging our technology. Data exchange hubs, data marketplaces where citizens, consumers will be able to exchange their data with a number of different parties in a manner that will be controlled and rewarding. In fact, all marketplaces, even though they will be very different, of course, depending on the needs of their owners, will have two key features in common. They will give data owners the possibility to see all the parties interested in accessing their data and to grant and revoke access to their data unilaterally and at any time. And, of course, when we will decide to share our data, we will be compensated for this sharing in the form of tokens that we will be able to spend in the marketplace. So let's imagine what that would mean in a digital city. We would create digital twins of everything, of city assets, corporate assets, ourselves, and we would be able to share our data in a controlled way, making our data available, for example, for startups, innovative startups that might develop autonomous driving applications, pollution risk calculation application. All in all, these applications could also become a generator of data streams, thus really generating a circular data economy that could create a much better environment and a richer environment for all of us. We envisage, of course, corporations to create their own data streams marketplaces, entirely changing their customer experience, involving them in the creation of value from investments in IoT that until today, such as those in second-generation energy meters, have been meant only to increase internal efficiency. Data marketplaces could be, of course, have many flavors, and the important thing is that as Europe, we have a unique opportunity to leverage our values and our legal framework to implement a different way of using data that will be more rewarding, more just, more ethical, in line with the data strategy that has been published by European Commission at the beginning of 2020. As I said, our objective is to create a new distributed and decentralized data economy, and I look forward to building it together with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elena. This was not only a big vision, but it's a big vision connected with a business model, connected with a value proposition and a clear value proposition for your clients and for us as consumers. I have to add a personal comment on this because I really feel something like a relief hearing your presentation, because this is really the big issue. In innovation management, we are used to speak about pains. So we try to address pains of consumers when to develop a new product. And I think you have clearly mentioned the pain, which is this not control, the missing control over our own data. And I feel now as I can't wait a moment when your technology gets mainstream and sets Europe, thanks to the GDPR, really ahead of these systems and of digital possibilities in the world. I check a moment if there are live questions. Okay, there are not yet. We are a little bit in delay for the stream, but I invite anybody and everybody to join Elena eventually on a virtual table at San Virtuale. She is here at Neutech Park and certainly able to answer your question also after the conference.
Thank you, Petra.
Elena.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back and welcome to Elia Rigo. He's a professional project manager and will explain why project management and the profession of a project manager shouldn't be undervalued, especially in remote working teams and distributed teams. Elia studied this, but he has also his personal experiences with project manager. In fact, some hard facts about Elia are that he is 26 years old, But already at the age of 17, he started his own business. Later on, he joined the Bruno Kessler Foundation, and in the end, he studied project management, in particular, IT with specialization in project management, and graduated this year at the University of Trento. So we are very curious, Elia, to hear about your experiences with project management, to hear about the state-of-the-art techniques, and in particular to hear which techniques best fit to the requirements in the IT project management. Stage is yours. Get started, Elia. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. So good morning to everyone. I'm Elia Rigo, and with the supervision of Professor Paolo Bouquet and Professor Andrea Molinari, I will present to you a study about the main software engineering and project management technique in virtual and on-site project. So let's start. I would like to start with a brief introduction of why I decided to do this kind of thesis. So this thesis was born from my interest gained during my last work experience at the Bruno Kessler Foundation, where I had the opportunity to hold a role both as developer, but also as project manager. So hence the idea of examining deep this kind of argument also for a possible career in this field. So this study aims to analyze and identify the main project management technique with a specific focus on the Italian IT sector. So my personal contribution, I decided to construct my thesis on a series of interviews on professional figures such as project manager, but not only. I interview also agile coaches and CTOs. So during this interview and during this thesis, I faced two main problems. The first problem was to gather a background knowledge on a topic like how to manage a project under an agile or a traditional aspect, since I didn't have this kind of background before this thesis. The second problem was to find a number of questions generic enough for everyone, so for project manager that work in a traditional environment, and also for agile coaches, for example, so agile context. Find a number of questions generic enough for everyone, but at the same time specific enough to analyze methodology and to analyze the methodology, and also for going into the details if necessary. So here we are. We have in the Italian IT sector two main methodology: the more traditional PM book and the agile. So due to time constraints, I will not go too much into the detail of these two methodology. So I will only try to give you a general introduction and some hint in the future slides. So let's start on what is project management. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, and tools to achieve a project. Since we are focusing on software engineering, it is important to enunciate also what is a software project lifecycle. So we can say that is a series of phases that a project passes through from its start to its completion. In particular, we have a highly predictive technique common in traditional waterfall process, where we have a linear process of development. Then we have an iterative and incremental development, common, for example, in agile contexts like Scrum, Crystal, or extreme programming, for example. Then we have a highly adaptive environment, common, for example, in lean context, where the product and the market continues to change. So the PM book enunciates 5 processes to develop something. We can start from the initiation process group, the process of defining a new project and get all the authorization to start it. So in this phase, we gather in a way all the necessary information to start and to understand what we will doing. Then we have a planning phase. In this phase, we do all the activities necessary to establish the scope of the project and the action necessary to reach the objective. Then we have an execution process group that are all the process performed to complete the work previously defined in the planning phase. So then we have another phase, which is a cycle, and it is the phase of monitor and controlling the process. So in this phase, this phase is required to track and review the progress of the project and where operate changes if necessary. So we continue to do planning and execution to understand possible problems and also to understand how to move in the next during the next phase. Then when everything is done, we have the closing process group. So all the process and activity performed to complete and close the project. Even though we have seen different agile techniques, from one point of view, a lot of companies still use something which can be very similar to this kind of work. So a first example is the critical path method. So this is a method enunciated again by the PM book, but is used a lot from a lot of companies. So what is critical path? The critical path is a technique adopted to establish and calculate the duration of a project from the start of the project. And another important thing of critical path is understand the most critical activities that could delay the deliveries. So a critical path is a sequence of activity that determines the longest path of the project, which is very important to know before the start. So the longest critical path represents the shortest possible duration of the project. So, for example, in this image, we have 4 activities with different duration. So we can see A5. We can see that the first activity lasts 5 slots of time. The second activity B lasts, for example, 10. 5. And then we have the last activity D, which lasts 15. Then we have also the activity C, which lasts D. So, for example, in this example, the critical path is represented by the duration of activity A, which lasts 5 slot unit, then C, that lasts 10, and then D, that lasts 15. So, for a total execution of 30 work units. So, we cannot, the project cannot last less than 30 work units. So, the critical path, I say that is a prerogative of PMI. But if we see it in an agile view and consider every activity as a sprint, the planification of a sequence of a sprint is not so different. So a first criticism of critical path is represented by the critical chain method, where instead of prioritize the activity, we try to prioritize the single human resource to avoid problem not considered by the critical path. Since in critical path we consider the activity, in critical chain we try to understand prioritize the single resource. What are the roles in software project management? We have seen the methodology, but there are 3 main roles in the development of a project. The first role is for sure the project manager. It is the administrator of the project. His activity is based from consulting with the team or business leader to meet the customer, or it could then improve the organization's performance. Then we have the project management office, abbreviated to PMO. It is a department that manages the governance of a project and facilitates the sharing of resource, tool, and methodology between PMI and project. In Agile, we can say that this is a bit different. So we don't have the figure of project manager, but instead we have some similar figure like the product owner, who has the aim to intercede between the team and the customer, the Agile coach, like the name says, help the team to apply the Agile methodology, and then we have the team leader, someone with a strong knowledge on the IT context. Last but not least, a team that could operate in total autonomy. So virtual project, remote working, and distributed teams. Here we have a lot of situations in which at least one member collaborates with the other team, and this team is not in the same building. So we need to operate in a virtual context. What are the pros and cons of a virtual project? why we need to speak about virtual projects? In the last decade, in the last year, we see that is very important. But the IT world is constantly evolving. So if we speak about corporation, the collaboration of project with multiple headquarters is the rule. Also in the recent time, we have seen an increase in this kind of environment. Unfortunately, this kind of environment is not without problems. By researching the 2015 by Dr. Cullen, we have that the first problem are engaging remote participation with the 76% of people that reported that this is a problem. Then we have, for example, missing out the dynamics and the nuance of conversation and a lot of other problems. So let's move on the interview part, what I discovered. So to understand if how the previous methodology are used, I interviewed project managers, CTO, and agile coaches from 16 different companies, divided into 4 main categories. We have IT consultancy company, software house, cloud service and architecture provider, and company product seller. We try to compose each category of 1 small company, 2 medium company, and 1 big company. So how I structure the interview. I define a compact number of valid questions, and I try to find a balance between PMI and agile questions. So I focus on 4 main groups. Company of questions, company framework. So I ask a question about how we structure the company. Then company project management techniques, that are questions related on how they operate, which methodology they adopt, and questions related to this kind of field. Then we have project management technique. So all the questions are very vertical, and in which I asked how they operate when they start a project, when they need to continue a project, and how they work when they close a project. Then I ask some questions to perform a comparison between on-site and virtual work. And also to understand if there could be difficulties in the introduction of PMI or agile technique inside the company. So what is the most used company framework? Around 90% of the company use fixed teams with a very specific skill. They divide in, for example, in IT skill and balance between junior and senior. Then we have around 50% of company assign only 1 project per developer, and the other 50 assign 2 more projects per developer. 55% of company adopt distributed teams or virtual project. So 14 company out of 16 use an agile methodology. Scrum is the preferred methodology, and it is difficult to find the figure of project manager and product owner. But it's common in companies that at a higher level use a more traditional approach. So in more traditional company, we have this kind of figure. So only 3 companies have a Scrum Master, and every company adopts a PMO, which is very strange since this is usually done only in companies that use a more traditional approach. So project management technique. We have 3 types of requirements elaboration. A lot of companies propose some idea on how to perform this kind of elaboration in this kind of document, but a lot of this document are provided by the client. Then we have traditional documentation, so also agile company use more traditional document, and then we have a very minimum part that company that try to minimize the kind of documentation to start a project. The most used approach is for sure increment and adaptive, which is used by the 75% of company. But a lot of them is need to use some kind of prediction technique, like for example milestone or Gantt. The most used platform is Atlassian Suite, and the budget control and management is done via traditional approach promoted by, for example, PMI, which is roughly speaking a human hours estimate. So let's move on. Again, the physical or virtual representation, we use Kanban board in this kind of fields, and then it's also very common the morning stand-up. Then we have also, for example, other activity like, for example, the backward review and the retrospective. Then we have traditional company that have faced the quality management at the beginning of the project, while instead agile company have a standard quality method that are applied to every project. The idea of risk changed from reality to reality. And in agile context, when we talk about risk, they think about risk related, for example, to the world of software, and not risk related, for example, to the development of a project. In medium and big companies, it is elaborated a final internal report at the end of the project, but in small company, we prefer a minimal approach. Only 5 medium company elaborate a story of the project. Right. And we keep track, a lot of them keep track of lessons learned and best practice.
Okay. Elia?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, you have run out of time.
Okay.
And there is also one question from a participant that I would talk with you about, and the participant is interested in customer satisfaction. And the question was if you have evidence in your research or even in other researches if there are differences in customer satisfaction with one project management style, so waterfall, versus the agile project management. Can you tell us something about that?
Speaking about customer satisfaction, there are no proof that there is a difference between one methodology to the other one. But since a lot of, for example, a lot of company prefer a kickstart of the project via traditional documentation, they slightly prefer to move into more traditional approach. So speaking about satisfaction is very difficult to answer, but there is let's say the company prefer to use a more traditional approach due to the kind of documents that they need to elaborate at the start of the projects.
Thank you very much, Elia. And dear audience, we will be back with you in just 2 minutes, so stay tuned.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, back again at SFScon Business Model Track. And welcome with Davide Montesin, who speaks about open source business plan visual simulator. Davide is this year's winner of the SFScon award, and congratulations for this, David. This shows your contribution to the local and not only local open source community. I hope you can feel and hear the virtual applause that goes to you for this award. He describes himself as a devoted girl dad, and professionally he has a passion for software development. He is, in fact, a freshly incubated startupper here at Neu Tech Park. He will talk about how he finds guidance in an initial phase using visual numerical simulations and charts. Let's give a warm welcome to Davide. The floor is yours. Davide, can you please add the microphone? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Still?
You hear me now? You hear me now?
Okay, it's okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Davide Montesin, and today I will speak about this open source business plan visual simulator. That is come with my experience with my startup. So let's start. I have some slides, and then we will see one software for this. So first, as already seen, I have a startup. The startup is about catching bugs and help you to fix them. At the same time, I have 20 years experience in software development. The first step one should do when things to open or to start a startup is to make a business plan. A business plan is a document in which you should define which are your goals, how you will reach this goal, the time frame, and so on. Is a very important document to create. The business plan is typically made with two parts. There is a part that is more descriptive, so you describe your product, your service you want to do. And there is even a numerical part in which you define economics values. This is not so easy, or at least was not so easy for me, because there are many values that you should identify and collect. So many cost, income, variable cost, for employee cost, and so on. So there are really many values to take in account. You make some forecast, and even this is not so easy. So, for example, how much product I will sell this year or next year, and so it can happen that you can have many unknown or missing information or no idea what to do in some cases. Moreover, there are relations between these variables. So, I mean, if you change something in your forecast, for example, I will sell or less products, you should even adjust, for example, the variable cost and so on. There is complexity. When you start, you maybe have no experience in all fields. I mean, for example, I have many experience in software development field, and so yeah, I can estimate cost at this side very good. But for example, marketing cost or how much product I will sell for me was hard to estimate because I am not an expert for this field. There is then even higher risk activity, so you can expect that not all what you plan will happen. So you must take in account that things can change during your journey. Even if it's difficult, but it's even important to have a business plan. For example, help you to understand how much capital you need for this. It's very difficult that you can launch a startup without initial capital. So this help you to define it. How much time you will need to make this project successful, what are the major risks, and even how you live in the meantime. So as startup, at the beginning, for sure, the startup will not earn money, and so you should even understand how you live in the meantime. For example, what are my economic factor or costs I have found? Also, you should define fixed cost, variable cost, research and development cost, marketing, estimation of product, service you sell, product price. These all are all parameters you need to define. As you see, also there are many information to define and estimate. Sometimes it's even more difficult because these can be something complex, because these parameters can have relation between, and so not so easy. It's like a little bit a difficult game here. And so what you can do, or what had helped me a lot, is to make using the also software. In this case today I show you a spreadsheet that use formula to calculate values in real time, and so when you adjust a value, you can in real time see what's happened to other values. And another things I have found very useful is to using visual charts. So charts that are sure more user-friendly to understand. Okay, now let's play with this spreadsheet. You can even download it. This is you can download it using this link, and let's now start with it. So this is the first sheet, some information. Next sheet, we see, for example, the main values we have spoken before, and the charts. There are many charts, depends on what you want to see. For example, let's start to define some fixed cost, and so you will see that the charts will adapt. So this is your bank account. This is not very good because you are at the moment with fixed cost only losing money. Now you need to make some research and development to create your product or your service. Typically, research and development has more effort at the beginning, and so you should take in account that cost at the beginning can be a little more. So even not a good business plan at the moment. Now we can, after research and development, we can maybe try to define the variable cost for your product. For example, how much will cost to produce one of your product. Marketing costs, these I can define, for example, with this number. Number now at the moment are only example. Then you should put your real number in these values. So after the research and development, then you can start with marketing. Here you see your cost and your com at the moment are 0. And so your bank account is not even good. Then you define a product price. Okay, this should be greater, our variable cost to make sense. And then let's start to sell some products. So if you sell, for example, 10 products each month, you can see this curve that show you how much product you are selling. With marketing, you cannot expect to sell the maximum rate of product immediately, but there is a time in which you reach it. And so to be, for example, an interesting startup, you must increase your sell product until your bank account will be again positive. So this is not good for a startup at the moment. The income is more at the cost, but your bank account is still negative. So let's say, for example, this value is no better, as you see here. Now, after 3 years, you start to have profit, but typically you must start before to have profit. And so, for example, this can be a good example. And so with this curve, you can a little understand how will your startup perform. Now we have played with this parameter, but you can even try to play with other values and see where are the most problem or what are your goals. Okay, so again to the presentation now. Just a moment. Okay. So in my experience, don't estimate your capital needs. Even your time is a cost. So taking account that even time has a cost, and identify and prioritize the main risk of your startup. Speak with people that already don't like this. So experience networking is very important. And at the end, try to sell your idea very early on. So using, for example, MVP, or they're using a lean approach, and so on. Okay, thank you very much for the attention.
Back on the stage, thank you very much, Davide. Very interesting approach, mathematical approach, I would say, to business planning. And I think it's very important what you said and how you demonstrated how numbers are used in business plan. Because in these times of startups, we are used to work a lot with business model canvas, to have a fast overview about a business model, to understand the approach to customers, to understand what the value proposition is, how to deliver it, and so on. But however, in the end, a business plan or a company will have success when the number in the balance sheet is positive. So the important thing is to have the right numbers. I think that your approach with simulation of business plan and with numerical simulation also combines very well with the business plan blueprint approach, in which companies are very fast in iterating business plans, thinking always about how they are able to create value, about how they are able to capture the value for themselves and to deliver it to their clients. This certainly helps to iterate and to not only iterate in hypothesis, but to bring also the numbers along with it. Davide, thank you very much for this contribution.
Thank you.
And so it's time to come to an end of this year's SFScon. And it's time to thank to everybody who contributed to this year's edition behind the scenes, because in an online edition there are even more persons working behind the scenes than in an offline conference. And a particular thank you goes to the project team of our unit Tech Transfer Digital, with Patrick, Emily and Luca in particular, but the whole team contributed to this SFScon. Thanks obviously to all partners and sponsors of the conference, and a big thank you to the technical staff behind the video, behind or on the audio systems. They all made this possible. And they made sure that SFScon, even in a virtual year, in a remote year, is more than a conference, but it's kind of a festival. And for us, it's time to say hello again in a year, and exactly on 12th November 2021, we will be back with you. Have a good time, have a good weekend now, and stay healthy and wealthy. See you again. Bye-bye.